All right, so real quick, I want to make a video on it. I say that every time, real quick, and then it's not a quick video. All right, so I want to make a video on the Sunjoe SPX 9004 Pro. It'll focus. There we go. Now, I want to say off the bat, they've got an SPX 9007 Pro. That the difference is, what is it? I want to say it's 1.6 gallon per minute and like 1800 psi, whereas this is 2 gallon a minute at 1300 psi. Realistically, on the trigger, I've tested it. You're looking, with using their tips, you're looking at about 1000 psi if you're gonna run it through. Now, this comes with a hose and a wand and tips and stuff, and it's not a bad hose, but problem is it's only like 25 foot, 30 foot. So me, I've got it running through my 100-foot reel and all that. So realistically, I'm saying it's about 1000 psi, which is just fine for washing cars. And like I said, this one does 2 gallon a minute. That's why I'd rather have this one over the other one, because I promise you, the extra gallons per minute is what you want instead of that pressure. That pressure is not going to make a big enough difference, but the gallons per minute, you know, it's basically it doesn't sound like a lot, you know, basically 0.4, half a gallon a minute more, but when you're only talking about 1.6 or 2 to begin with, that makes a big difference, you know, if you did that percentage wise. So promise you want the gallons per minute. This is also cheaper, I believe, than the 9007. But you know, people are comparing this to the Krenzel or Krenzel, however you say it, the model that you know, Obsessed Garage, he's made it very popular, and he's selling a version that's like this. It's, you know, handheld heat. Now, he mounts his on a shelf and all that, and you could do the exact same with this. And oh, by the way, they do sell models of this where it's already on a cart. It's got a cart and I think a hose reel and stuff on it. They do have those as well, but you know, for this application, what I'm doing, I don't want that cart. I just want this. And so you know, they're comparing this to the Krenzel. I think it's supposed to have similar specs, but I don't look at it like that. The Krenzel is over $1,000. This is right under 400, call it 400. So it's significantly less money, but if washing cars is what you're going to do, whether you're a DIY guy or even a professional, because I'm using this professionally right now, and you know, you've actually got a pump that is serviceable and, you know, should be, I believe, is rebuildable. You do have a regulator that you can regulate the pressure on the fly if you need to, but over here you've got, you see, this is an oil sight glass, so you actually have oil in this pump that you can change. That's something I really like, because I believe in maintaining my equipment. The better you maintain it, you know, the longer it'll last, or at least that's my experience. This little top comes up. This bolt is what they send it with. They include a dipstick, you know, so you take this out and put the dipstick in. But in case you didn't know, this little red dot here, you want the oil. Now I've been using it, so it looks, you know, the oil's all mixed up in there, but when it's been sitting, you want the oil level to be right there in the middle of that red dot, no higher. You'd almost rather have it a little lower than higher. You don't want it higher than that. So yeah, so you can maintain it, possibly even rebuild it. Now, I think they advertise that you can get 500 hours. You know, I have no reason to doubt that. You've got a solid motor here. It's right at a 2 horsepower motor. This thing takes says 13.5 amps and I've got this Predator 4,000 watt generator, and you see it says 13 amp max, but it's powering this thing just fine. You know, my air compressor there pulls more than this thing does. That's a 2.5 horsepower motor right there. So, oh, and the 9007, the Sunjoe 9007 Pro has a slightly bigger motor, not by much, so it probably takes another amp or something, but you know, that could matter. So like I said, if you're DIY or professional, if you're washing cars with this, which is, you know, what I'm recommending it for, I definitely don't recommend this for you know, like pressure washing your driveway or your house, nothing like that. You know, I know it comes with the little siphon here where you can siphon in your soap, but you know, this is a really good unit for washing cars, either way, professional or DIY. Now I should have left my extension cord out so I didn't have to fire this generator up, but I'm gonna fire my generator up and I'm gonna show it to you in action, because basically this is, like I said, working pressure while you're on the trigger, right around 1,000 psi. And so if it can, like this vehicle here has got these carpeted fender wells, and you know, they can get a lot of stuff stuck to them in there. And so you know, usually a garden hose is it, you know, it helps, but a pressure washer is much better for these carpeted fender wells. But this unit here, the Sunjoe 9004, did an excellent job of knocking all the stuff out of here, you know, without me having to come in and spray it with all-purpose cleaner and brush it, agitate it. Just coming in here and spraying it, it did a really good job. So that's, you know, a thing as far as pressure wise. You don't need 2,000 psi or more to do stuff like this. I mean, you know, a lot of pressure washers, especially these electrical ones, will say 2,000 psi, you know, 1.6 gallon per minute, 2,000 psi. But when you're actually on the trigger, which is what matters, it doesn't matter what the pressure is when you're off the trigger. Your actual working pressure when you're on the trigger falls significantly with most of those units. And if this one claimed 1,300 psi and fell like those other ones do, you'd only be getting like 600, 700 psi. But that's not the case with this. You're getting, like I said, even running through a 100-foot hose and everything, I'm getting about 1,000 psi working pressure, and that's plenty to do everything I need it to do with washing cars. It's able to clean these fender wells. It's able to all the stuff that gets kicked up, you know, on the side panels from off the wheels that gets stuck to the paint. You're able to come in here and safely. That's the thing, is this is, you know, really a safe pressure. It's really all you want. You know, 1,300 psi is perfect at a working pressure at that 2 gallon per minute. You know, now even just going down to that 1.6 gallon per minute, it does make a difference. You know, it's kind of an analogy, be like going from a garden hose to a fire hose nozzle. I'm probably sure, you know, probably most of y'all have never, I used to be a firefighter, most of y'all probably never experienced that, what it's like to either be on the receiving end getting hit by a fire nozzle or fire hose, or using it. But huge difference. And it's not that it's so much more pressure, it's the gallons per minute just makes an impact. And so promise you, if you're looking at getting these machines, don't be tempted by the 1,800 psi. You want this one, you want the gallons per minute. So also with the front, you know, the bugs and stuff that are stuck on here, it's a good safe pressure to knock those bugs off and everything. Depending on the, because, you know, like my gas powered pressure washer over there, the one that I have for washing cars, that is 2.5 gallon a minute, but it's right under 3,000 working psi. The majority of the time I come in with a bug sponge and all-purpose cleaner and agitate and break everything loose first, and then just rinse it off with the pressure washer. This one is a low enough pressure, a safe enough pressure. Don't stick it 0.0, dead on the paint, because then it is gonna tear something up. But I mean, you can I was getting within 6 inches and you're fine. So like I say, it's got the gallon per minute to move that dirt, to make that impact. That's what you want. So we'll pause this. I'm gonna fire the generator up, and I'm just gonna let you see it work here for a second. All right, so like I said, you can hear now. You're not going to be able to hear this pressure washer over that generator. The generator is louder, probably by far, than the pressure washer. And this generator is not that loud. It probably sounds a lot louder. Things usually do over the camera. But one big thing, it's really not a big deal, but I do want to mention it. This pressure washer, when you turn it on, the motor is going to run the whole time. So with the Krenzel, it's got the stop start, where if you're not on the trigger, the motor stops and you don't hear anything running. Whereas this one, you're going to hear something running the whole time. So the reason I mention that is you don't want to just leave it running and walk away for 20 minutes or something, because then what it's doing is it's recirculating the water in a very tight loop inside that sitting here drawing a blank. I'll just say inside the pressure washer, inside the pump, excuse me. So it's just recirculating that water, and it gets hot. And now this one has a little thermal relief valve. So like most better pressure washers do, but you don't want that to, if water shoots out of that, then you're doing something wrong. You don't want to look at that as something that I can just leave it running because it's got that thermal relief valve and it'll let the pressure, the water, the heat off. You don't want to do that. So that is a factor, but it shouldn't be a big deal, because you're able to, let's say, like when I'm doing in the beginning the wheels and tires, I sit there and go over the wheels and then go over the tire one by one, and while I'm doing that, usually like with my gas pressure washer, that's kind of really one of the reasons why I wanted to get the electric pressure washer. Even though this one doesn't have the stop start, it's still, I don't know how really to explain it. You're still a lot safer with this one. With, you can do a wheel and a tire and have it running and then go. I'll tell you what's really good, and I've got one of them. It's called a weeping gun. And what it does, it's just like at the automatic car wash, or the do-it-yourself car wash, excuse me. You know how that wand, when you put the quarters in and the machine comes on, the wand is already spraying at a low pressure. Then when you squeeze the trigger, it sprays at higher pressure, but it's constantly weeping, or it's constantly letting water out. And it does that so the pump doesn't overheat. So that is an option, and that goes for any pressure washer that doesn't have the stop start, which the majority of them don't. So gas pressure washers, that's something really handy as well. The reason I got it was because of my gas pressure washer. But you would be okay to do a wheel and a tire, as long as you're not taking all day on it, and then rinse it off and then go to the next one and let it sit there, and not have to go back and forth and cut it on and off is what I'm saying. So like I said, you'll know if it's too long if water comes out of that thermal relief valve, which I'll walk over there and show that to you right now. But as you can see, and probably hear, you know, that's right around 1,000 psi, working psi, but it's 2 gallon a minute, and that 2 gallon a minute is really what's going to speed up the process on, you know, rinsing, washing, getting the soap off. You want the gallons per minute. And this one, you know, in reality, it might be, you know, just under 2 gallon a minute, because sometimes, like I said, pressure washers are one of the things they like to overrate, unless you go with, like, that's why I really like Cat. Krenzel is the same way, though, from what I understand, that they have true ratings. They don't overrate them, but unfortunately, you know, the cheaper pressure washers and stuff, they like to overrate them and put a big number on there. But regardless, this one is rated for 2 gallons a minute. The other one is rated at 1.6 gallon per minute. So you should be getting more with this one. I haven't tested the other one, but from what I've heard, this one is the better option for washing cars. Now let me walk over here and show you. It's going to get loud with that generator, but I'm going to show you the thermal relief valve I'm talking about. So that right there is what I'm talking about. That's what lets the water and the pressure out if it builds up and gets too high, if you've let it sit there and run too long. So while it's very good that it's got it on there, you know, because I understand things happen where you just you know, can forget sometimes, like when you're first starting off, if you're not used to it, you know, you might forget it or something. And so at least it does have it on there where it's a backup protection plan. But like I said, you definitely don't want to use that, or, you know, if ever, you don't really want it to ever be used. So is the goal. But as you seen there a second ago, he was rinsing out that other fender well over here that I didn't get, which I forgot to come over here and record while he was doing and show y'all. But I purposely didn't do this one because I wanted to show y'all how bad it was, and then how good that pressure washer got it. But yeah, it works. So, you know, that's basically the message, is that this thing works either, you know, professionally or otherwise. If you're do-it-yourself or whatever, this is a really good option. You know, at basically $400, it's a really good option. Like I said, it comes with a good hose, comes with a decent trigger gun and lance. This one does have the 1/4 inch quick connect at the end of the lance, so you can put your standard, you know, foam cannon or other attachments on it. But obviously I've got it hooked up to my existing setup that I hooked my gas powered ones through, which is right now my 100 foot of 3/8 hose, and then my little gun there. I actually got that one. It's not a Mosmatic or anything. That one's just from Northern Tool. It's about a $60 gun. You know, they work. It was just something quick and easy to grab. And right now that tip, that 25-degree tip, is a 25030. So it's the 30 nozzle, if you know what I'm talking about. I'm not sure exactly what their tips are, but it does come with their tips. And so if you want to, you know, get closer to that true rating, then use their tips, what I recommend. But, you know, really the only thing that I would, like, if you're gonna say, like if you're going to use this professionally, you definitely want to get a longer hose, or I wouldn't want to have to, you know, pick the unit up and move it, because I think it's a 25-foot hose. It could be a little longer, but I really don't think it's 50 foot, but it's not a bad quality hose. So what you could do is take, you know, use that hose and then get you, what I recommend, and what I did on that is get the quick connect adapter, because it comes with the M22 connection. So you get a M22 to the 3/8 quick connect, and most Home Depots have those. You can get them at Northern Tool, or you can order them offline, whatever, but it's a M22 to a 3/8 quick connect. The way I've got mine set up, it's a female quick connect coming off of the pump, but I know a lot of people are doing it backwards from that now and having the male come off the pump. But you know, you could take that hose that it comes with, get you another 25 another 25 foot at least. 25, you know, 50 foot total should be good enough for you to be able to have the pressure washer, even like, you know, on, you know, like in my case, if I had it on the trailer, if I only had 50 foot, I might be just a little bit closer to the vehicle, but that should be enough for you to be able to get all the way around the vehicle, you know, without having to pull the pressure washer off. Or if you're at home and you've got it mounted in your garage on the wall or something, as long as it's not, you know, on all the way back there, if it's somewhere around here, 50 foot should be enough where you could pull your car up, you know, somewhere in here and be able to get all the way around to the back. But just know, I've got it running through 100 foot, and like I said, I'm getting around right at 1,000 psi working pressure, which is plenty enough. So if you did want to run it through 100 foot of hose, because that does make life easier, especially if you're doing this professionally, then you definitely can. And so, you know, that's pretty much the gist of it. Can't really think of anything else, you know. Long story short, I recommend it both for professional use or DIY. Now, I haven't had this long, so I can't speak on longevity, but I can say that so far, it, you know, as long as it holds up, it works just fine out of the box, you know, even with running it through a 100-foot hose. So yeah, I mean, I recommend it either way. If you're a DIY or professional, it's less expensive than the Kranzel, and it's still a, you know, professional quality motor and pump that are on it. So you should get some good life. I mean, I know plenty of people that like the cheap little $100 or $200 Sunjoes, or the other cheap electric pressure washers where you can't maintain the pump at all, you can't do anything to it, and people get years out of them. So that being said, I really think with this one, you know, let's just say you didn't ever maintain it, I still think with this one you could get years of life out of it. And if you maintain it, you know, probably a long time. I would really be willing to say, just like with every other pressure washer, it's usually the pump that goes out before the motor. Almost never is it the motor, unless you just like run it dry with no oil or something. It's always the pump that goes out. And so that's why I say having a pump that you can service, that you can change the oil out and maintain it, you know, you should get a longer lifespan out of that pump. So if you're using it professionally, you know, you should get some good use out of it. But if you have any questions about it, leave it down below. Hey, if any of y'all have used this machine, if you own it, or if you have you know, used it, let me know your experience. Let me know what you think of it, good or bad. And you know, till the next video, y'all either be good or be good at it.